Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about our Advent updates, why mine is building much patience through a lot of frustrating situations of my own creating. And we're going to be sharing some of our favorite cookie recipes. And Susie is finally going to get to tell us about her big yarn sale at, at the discount store. So anyway, and also at the very end, we're going to address some of the questions that our viewers have asked. So, ready, Susie? Should we do this?
Yeah, let's go.
You have just made my day.
Hey, I'm Susie, and we are so glad that you're here with us today. Remember, you are supposed to think of us as your virtual yarn circle, and hope you've grabbed something good to drink and have your needles with you. And we're going to entertain you for a little bit.
Group therapy, that's what we call it,
Good,
right?
yes, group therapy.
Oh my goodness. So Susie, let's just get right into this. I can see a little bit about that. Your Advent has been going much better than mine. Where are you? Where's your progress? Show me your
Well,
squares.
yes. So if everybody remembers, I'm doing a crocheting advent. And actually, this is a little challenging for me. It's one of the reasons why that I'm not going to do all 12 of the patterns. So I chose one and I've done 6 of those. So I've done days 1 through 6 and I've done the same square pattern. I'm going to show those to you.
That's what I should have done.
Yeah.
The same thing.
See, Advent is all about watching our vlogmases each morning and opening our little
That's true.
things of yarn and not having to do a lot of thinking when we do our knitting or our crocheting. So I was determined that I wasn't going to have to do a lot of thinking. And so I tried to make it as simple as possible. And so here are my squares.
Your squares got really big. How big are those
They're
squares?
about 7 inches across. Yeah, they're about 7 inches.
See,
And
I
so,
did not realize the scale of them. So
yeah,
your little mini squares really aren't mini. That's kind of the size that a lot of people do on purpose.
exactly. So these are 7 inches across.
Oh,
So
beautiful. Take one off. I want to see it.
okay, I'm gonna
I'm
take them
sure
all
everyone wants
off.
to see it.
So
Oh,
I
wow.
want to make sure I'm doing this right.
And
Okay,
you're
so
blocking
this,
them as you go.
well, and they're not blocked. They're just on my little board. So, but it keeps some shape. So
Yeah.
this is day 6, and this
You're
is
almost caught up. I'm so
5
jealous. Oh,
and day 4,
nice.
day 3,
Oh, that's gonna be pretty. And
day 2,
I like it. That's a beautiful pattern.
and day 1. I love it. I actually have found another one of the squares that I think I'm going to do half in that one and half in the other. So next week I'll show you the other pattern that I'm doing. And so what happened is when I did these squares, I still had enough yarn, and I don't know how to be when I change patterns, but
Right.
what I did is I took the leftover and I went ahead and made these
Oh
little
yeah.
squares.
I was thinking they were like mini, like
No, they're
I was
not. These are
thinking,
nice size. These are nice size squares. And so when I'm putting the blanket together, it could be that I'll be able to figure out adding these into the blanket. So every 7-inch square has like a 4.5-inch square it has a baby.
well, that's
My
just
squares have a baby.
yeah. Because I was kind of wondering, I mean, I know crochet does take up, more yarn.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you were only getting what I thought was that size for your main and then like a little one. I was thinking, wow, that does use a lot of yarn.
Yeah, no. So here's the difference in the sizes.
Wow.
You
That's
know, this
pretty.
is the baby and this is the mommy and the baby. And so
Maybe
so
we can
that
have a start.
I've crocheted through day 6. I'm working on day 7, and I'm actually working on the my yarn dropped in the floor. Hold on. So I'm working on the new little pattern that I'm going to do, and I'll show the big one next week. But this is the beginning of the new one, and here is the yarn
So
for.
what is the name of your secondary, your new pattern that you're thinking of throwing in
Well,
there?
it's still in the same pattern, but that pattern, and we
Oh,
hold on a
the
minute.
squares had different names, didn't they? The little squares? No.
Oh yes, hold on a minute. I can pull that up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm going to probably do 12 of them in the pattern that I've just done, and then do the other 12 in another, because I think this one kind of will parallel. It's called A Walk in the Woods.
Okay.
And this is what that one's going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's pretty.
And
That's
see, these are little trees, and the little holes are like a path in the woods, is the way she explained it.
oh.
And then you've got the trees.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
so
so I thought, and these remind me of like a wagon wheel, you know. So
yeah. Sundial. I saw a sundial or
yeah.
that's neat.
And
Yeah.
so here is day 8.
Pretty.
Here is day 9.
That's right. Today's the 9th. Oh.
The days and night.
It is
And,
the
and even though I'm
I
not,
don't think I opened date night. Anyway,
so even though I'm not doing these right now, I will be knitting these advents up or crocheting. I'm not
right.
sure which. So what I did, so that you can see, hold on a minute, let me make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so what I did is I have put these together like this. And this is Homespun Houses.
Oh, you're so smart. I should do that.
And so day 1 starts here.
Mhm.
This is day 1. And so this is day 1 through 9 so far.
Well, I gotta do that with the one I'm doing because I'm so far behind.
Yeah, so this is day.
Love it.
And then I'm doing Chelsea Yarns.
Yeah.
And of course, we love watching her Vlogmas. And here is hers. And she does very soft colors, you can tell.
Yeah.
And this is day 1 right here. This
Okay.
is day 1, and then it goes to day 9. So these are all of the colors of that particular advent,
Very pretty.
which
Yeah.
would make a beautiful poncho or a beautiful shawl.
Well, that's what
because
she's
these are
doing it.
such. Yep, she's doing a
We had one like kind of designed for her or
yeah,
whatever.
she did.
And she's doing it. She like me is very behind, but she's catching up.
She's catching
I
up.
will catch up probably next week. Next week is a much lighter week in my life, but well, awesome. Well,
If I were knitting though, Linda, I don't think that I would be as far along because my life's been so crazy busy. You know, I've still got company here. Tebow and Colleen are still here and working, you know, and so I have really, you know, I always say I do things in nooks and crannies, and that's exactly what I've had to do. So anyway, I plan to be called up by tomorrow though. So I'm excited. But then you still got to put them all together, you know, so that's going to be a long process, you know, crocheting all those squares together to make the blanket, but it's going to be beautiful. I love the colors. And I'm doing Emma's yarn. And so I'm thrilled that that's the one that I chose to work on during the Advent season.
Yeah.
So tell us what's going on with your stuff. I know you've had.
Oh man, I was so frustrated. So I am on day 2. That's it.
But that's okay.
So
It's
day one,
beautiful though. I love the colors.
and before I go further, I'll show you. Um, so this.
Oh, those are
Oh wait,
beautiful.
that's not the next.
Is that
color.
it?
Wait a minute. This will be the next color.
Okay.
Love those colors. And then this one, then this one. So we're going to get into the greens because these are the garden, and I won't even backtrack right now about all the different plants. And and then it's going into a nice
The yellows.
yellow.
And this is leap of faith.
It is leap of faith. But here is what I did. So there's 120 stitches on here, and I made the really fatal mistake because there is a lot of yarn overs and kind of stuff going on. It's very easy to lose a stitch and not know it until it's too late. But what my brain said, as long as this is the bamboo stitch, as long as the bamboo stitches were lining up, I was okay. But that's not the case because there's 2 knit 2 yarn, pull that yarn, you yarn over 2 and you pull it over, which makes the bamboo. And they start out differently. And if you aren't careful, what happened is I was losing stitches. So I went from 120 to like 1 was I 118? I think it was 118. So I lost 2 stitches anyway. So what I tried to do is just unknit some of it because I was already on I had this on there already when I figured it out. And I figured it out because I was going to the next day. Anyway, so instead of doing what you need to do when you sew and your machine stitch is making, a mess, it's almost always about rethreading your machine. And you should never, especially if you have a serger, any of you who sew and have sergers, there's a lot of threading with a serger. You don't try to find where your mistake is. You take everything out and totally rethread.
In other words, you should have knitted backwards.
What I really should
it all out.
Went further because what I did is I didn't take enough off. And then I kept trying to make it work. And I was like, why is this not working? So finally I just said, I'm going to take it right back to the main color after day 1. And that's what I did. So I've gotten this done yesterday. But I finally did that. So here's what I learned. Lessons learned: not to be a sloppy knitter and count every single row.
Yeah.
So now I have to count 120 every single row, which is kind of a pain.
Well,
it's going fast, and I'm counting often. But
is there a pattern that's going on there that you like a pattern that repeats?
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. But what happens is on one of the where you do the actual bamboo stitch, you are knit front and back, knit 1, and then you start. And one of them you don't because you add 1 and you decrease because it's at a slant. See how it's slanting?
Oh, it's slanting.
It just wasn't working for me. And I was just getting so frustrated.
Well, sometimes it helps if it's a repeat pattern to put your stitch markers where the pattern repeats. And then when you
you see where the pattern repeats, but what happens is your front and your end change. Your last couple stitches, like 1 row, it ends in 3, and 1 it ends with 4. And so anyway, I finally got it, and I was able to knit.
Thankfully, that section ends. You don't do the whole thing there.
Well, but I can have the same thing because all of the rows are going to have a pattern, and so I have to just be more careful. I have to count every single time, and that's okay. I learned something. So anyway, I just thought, don't try to fix it. Just rip it. So it was painful, and I should stop saying that I'm a process knitter because right now I want to accomplish it. It's like
I'm do that project.
I need to get the project done. So yeah. Anyway, that was that, and So it was kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. So anyway, let's see what else. What we're going to talk about. Oh, we got to talk. We got to talk about your closeout sale, the big
Oh,
sale.
yeah.
Where was it? Atlantic what?
It was in Atlantic Beach in North Carolina, which
I've
is
never been there.
it's right there in Morehead City and Beaufort, North Carolina. It's right on the water. It's beautiful in that area. It's a big vacation site. A lot of people go there. Emerald Isle is not far from there. It's just
I love Emerald Isle.
Atlantic Beach. Yeah. So my parents they moved there when I was right before I started my senior year of high school. And so, although I don't really feel like I grew up there, that's kind of was the home base that my kids went back to visit my parents. And
it's beautiful there.
Beautiful area. Yeah, it's a beautiful area. My daddy still lives there. My mom is deceased, but my dad still lives there. He lives with my brother. And so my daddy had turned 80 years old, and he is a picture of health. He walks about 5 miles a
He
day.
invests in his health.
He
invests in his health.
He did invest in his health, and he was very proactive. You know, a lot of us, a lot of us, you know, we don't think about our health until we have to start chasing it. Is what I say. You're chasing it, and my daddy was proactive. He has been, you know, and my mom was that way. My mom was ahead of her time. She was a unicorn back when I was growing up. You know, our refrigerator had white cheese and you know, she took white sugar out. We didn't have sugar in our house. People thought they didn't want to go to our house. They said, "Your mama, you don't have anything good to eat there." And you know, but my mom,
now she'd be cool.
Oh, she was cool, you know. Yeah, she was cool. And we all learned from her. And Mary Catherine, it's been years ago, she sent me a screenshot. We have a text chat group, and she sent me a screenshot, and underneath it said, "Your mom was a health nut if these things were in your house, in your cabinets, in your refrigerator." It was things like rice milk and fruit leathers. And I remember everything that was on the list, because I used to order from a food co-op years ago when you couldn't find. I mean, it's so awesome. Now we can go into Whole Foods and Sprouts and Fresh Market, and even the grocery stores now have areas where that you're carrying stuff that have very little ingredients, and you understand everything that's on the label. But years ago, I ordered from a food co-op. Did you do that?
Oh yeah, I still do.
I mean, I
berries and I still do. But yeah, in fact, I ordered some organic eggnog, which I'm really thrilled about, because the eggnog in the store is just
it's full of so much stuff.
Nasty.
And you know, you take for granted. I mean, in all these years of me reading labels and everything, I went to pick up some instant grits in the grocery store. The grits. When I lived in Pennsylvania, they would pickle me the way I talked. But anyway, I went in there to get some grits, and I just assumed that the ingredients on grits was corn, ground corn, you know, and I love grits. It's not. Oh, go to the grocery store and pick up a box of instant grits and turn it around and look at the ingredients. It will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. What is in that?
Is it because the instant part has done that to it?
I don't know. So I picked up. So what I've done is I have found long cooking grits, and that's what I'm doing. I'm cooking them on the grill. I will never use instant grits again.
Well, with the instant pot, nothing's long cooking.
Oh, well, that's true. But they still aren't that long cooking even then. But you know, years ago, I would grind my dried corn. When the kids were growing up, I would grind my dried corn and make my grits from the ground corn. I may need to go back to that. But anyway, you really do have to read the ingredients. And we got off track again. What were we talking about? What were you talking about?
I think we were.
I was talking about my dad. I was talking about my dad.
Continue with our yummies and we'll come back. Tell us about your sale. So
the reason I was there is my daddy was having his 80th birthday. That's what we're talking about. And so anyway, my sisters were there, and we've talked about Betty, you know. So me and Betty and Donna, my other sister, Donna crochets and knits also, but she's not as obsessed with it as me and Betty are. And so anyway, she went with us, and we found this place in Atlantic Beach that had been there for decades, but they were closing. And I remembered that they had it. It's a store that has all kinds of gift things in it, all of that. But for years, she's had like this little nook of yarn. And so we went there, we walked through the door and found out that the yarn that was there was at 50% off. So we were just like kids in a candy store. And Betty got a load of stuff.
I saw her basket.
Yeah, she did. And my basket, in the little short video that we put on the channel, I didn't have much in there, but I ended up getting a lot. I had to go get another basket, and I filled 2 baskets up. So anyway, so I know in one of our episodes I talked about how that I do baby
baby blankets.
Baby blankets. And so some of this stuff I actually got for baby blankets. This was really pretty.
Oh.
And I thought this would make like a pretty baby blanket is what I bought it for. And this is it's 75% acrylic and it's 25% wool. So, and this is by Plymouth Yarn. And then I saw these Betty, my sister Betty, I actually taught her to knit socks, and now she knits rings around me when it comes to knitting socks.
Really?
But they say that's the key to a good teacher, that your students outdo you.
There you go.
But Betty, she knits socks like crazy, and she's got a grandson that the only socks he wants to wear are her knitted socks. And when we were there visiting Daddy, we talked about the Salty Sheep in Swansboro, North Carolina.
I love that. I know I said it last
And Christopher told Betty, he said, I think they call her Grandma, but he said, we got to go by the yarn store. He said, you got to get some more yarn to knit me more socks.
Yeah.
And he's in high school.
Socks today are so gross. They're almost all nylon. They're plastic. And it's like wearing baggies on your feet. They sweat. Your feet stink. They're just nasty.
And wool socks, they don't carry that. They don't hold bacteria, and you don't have to wash them as much. And so they're
like cotton white socks. But if you want a dark, like a trouser sock, you just can't find them in dark anymore.
So Betty saw this yarn there that was 50% off. This is $20 for this. That was a regular price.
Oh, that is pretty.
And this, she said, oh, Susie, she said, this yarn is the most wonderful yarn to knit socks in. And it's by Universal Yarns. And the fiber is 75% superwash wool and 25% nylon. So I got these for $10. And these are the 3 that I got these 3.
Nice.
So I got some sock yarn.
That one could really be, I mean, not that you need a Christmas sock, but that one looks like it could be Christmas sock colors.
Yeah.
The red and the green.
And then I got this, which this right here is more baby blanket. This is by Universal Yarns too, and it's an acrylic blend.
It could be for a boy or a girl.
Yeah, it could be for either. So I'm always trying to find yarn for baby blanket knitting. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. It's beautiful. Major.
So and these were $13 a piece. I got them half of that, which that's great prices for blankets. You know?
Right.
And then
so you only need 2. So it only cost you how much were they then?
They were
the full price?
The full price was $12.98, so $13.
So nice. So that's
so $13. It'll probably take both of those. It'll probably take 2 of these.
Plus your time at $25 an hour.
Yeah.
That's what people always.
That's why I just knit for who I love, because they would never pay.
Exactly.
And then I found this. I've never seen this brand of yarn, but it's 50% merino wool and 50% silk. And
I love anything with silk in it.
Oh, and so this color was
that's you right there. You need
and then I got this one.
is this going to be for a baby blanket?
Well, no, I'm
I was
thinking
gonna say
about
it.
I'm gonna do cardigans for, my daughter I have 4 daughters. She has
Yeah,
3, one's on the way. So I thought that these could make some
those are
pretty little
beautiful.
cardigans. That where they live, they really don't need jackets.
No,
And
yeah,
so I thought with the gray and I don't know, striping this and
I
this, we
like
could make
that.
some pretty cardigans with this. And I got quite a bit of that. And that might be That's it. That was my stash that I got from there. But that wool and silk one, I got probably about 13 of each one of them. So, and the price on that $9 was $9. So I got them each for 450, and there is 125 yards in each one of the hanks. So there's not a lot of yardage, and it was $9 for 125 yards. So, it takes a lot if you're going to do a sweater or whatever. But if I'm knitting for little girls, it won't take as
I was gonna
much.
say at least they're little
Enough.
sweaters.
Yeah, that's true. But it was fun. I love finding a sale like that, and
So
you have to
surprised.
focus on how much you saved, not how much you spent.
I know exactly. I was
My
surprised
mama
you
loved to
didn't
go to
buy
Belk
more.
and shop. My mother always loved to go to Belk and shop, and she'd come back and she'd say, Bob, I saved $400. He would say, well, honey, how much did you spend? She'd say, well, I don't want to talk about that. Talk about how much I saved.
I know for sure. I mean, it's like a game. I know. V- I very rarely. It's like out of principle. I don't know if anyone else out there is like this. I don't pay full price for much of anything.
I don't like.
Now I do at a yarn shop, mostly because I just want to support the yarn people, the shop owners, and I don't mess around with that. But when it comes to groceries or anything I wear or
Looking
shoes,
for the
or,
deal.
it's like I just, it's a game. I just want to know how.
My daughter-in-law came to me Saturday, Colleen, and she said, "You want to go treasure hunting with me?" And
Ooh,
I said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "You have got a great thrift store right up the street that I found some great stuff at the last time I was here." And Saturday was my first day that I was going to be able to be home all day. And I said, "Oh, will you mind if I pass?" And she said, "No, not at all." And so, anyway, she went and she found quite a few treasures. I mean, great
really?
stuff, things that I think one thing still had a tag on it. And she got a Calvin Klein vest that was filled with lamb's wool. She
Oh,
found that at the thrift store. And
I wish one time somebody would buy something and have a pocket with money in it.
I know.
I would love that. Like there's
But Colleen, she loves to go to thrift stores and any of those secondhand stores. She's very thrifty, and she usually finds great stuff. And they live in Phoenix, and so they're going to be here until the 1st of January. She doesn't really have warm clothes, and
right.
so she needed, with the weather is really getting cold here, and so we've had a cold snap. So she needed a little bit more warmer clothes. So what better place to go treasure hunting than a good thrift store,
Oh, I
So that's
know.
what she did.
It was so cold here like 3 days ago, and then yesterday was 65. This
I
is why
know.
in the South you have to have a lot of closet because
You
you have
do. And there's
so
no such thing as choosing them in and out.
well, and you just have to be prepared for all the seasons. And
Exactly.
but yeah, it's all craziness when it comes to the weather. But like it rained last night, and I think last week, right when we recorded, was the day after it snowed, which is unusual for us to get snow in
I
December.
know. It
But
was
we're
snow.
like, what is happening here?
The
Um,
early birds got to see the snow because if you slept in
yeah,
that day, you probably would have woke up not ever know it
that's
even
true.
happened.
That's true. It did. It melted pretty fast, but my grandkids were up super duper early and in it before my daughter was even up. I said, "Who let them out?" And she said, "Oh, well, their dad was up." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "It's only going to be 4 and 6." I'm like, "Oh," but anyway, yeah.
So
So,
let's talk about the cookies.
oh, the cookies. Well, the cookie thing is cookies. Cookie baking is something I generally, excuse me, only do at Christmas. And it really is a tradition from, well, from my mother, of course, but I just think from the heritage that my family comes from, which is very German. Um, Germans love to bake, and all my great aunts and whatnot, they were little bakers. And so, of course, the whole bakery thing is big. They used to make very, what I call exotic bakery, like, Coogan's and coffee, all these different strudels and
You know
coffee.
what that is,
Yeah,
Coogan.
I don't
What
do
is that?
they're just all bakery things. And so they're very into coffee and bakery. So I grew up, of course, my grandma always had her Corning perker on the stove. Her house always smelled glorious. I mean, I had to drink coffee as soon as I could because I had such a positive association with it. It smelled so good. So of course I've been drinking coffee for a long time, but I still got tall. Anyway, legend. That's a legend. You can drink coffee and not stunt your growth. But the baking thing was so big, and I was born and raised in Milwaukee, which was German founded.
And it's
That's
cold there. You
cold.
have
You
to
want
drink
coffee, and then
coffee.
you got a bakery to
Ooh.
keep you a little warm. But back in the day, I want to show you this. The utility companies, this is from Wisconsin Electric. They used to give you free cookbooks.
Wow.
Imagine.
And
And
they don't give us anything free
so
now.
you get a big bill. And
Yeah,
now
that's
this is
exactly
from the gas
right.
company. This one was my mother's. It was the year she got married,
Wisconsin.
1958. And you can see a Spritz cookie, which Spritz cookies were so big when I was growing up. I'm really dating myself. And then this one's the gas company. And my favorite cookies come from these books. I still use them. I've had them for a long time already. This, like I said, this one's 1958. And I really don't know where this one is, but it says, "You're cordially invited to come to our kitchen center." Look at it. Oh, I should take a picture.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's so
Look
big,
at that.
you know. Um, but anyway, so the one thing that I always did with my mom and I continued to do with my kids was we would make cutout cookies and decorate them. And I still have some very old cookie cutters and I still use those. And we haven't done our decorating this year yet. That's happening Saturday. I can throw up a picture or two of us from last year. And I'm loving my giant island so much because we just all line up and everybody, well, I'm usually making a lot of icing and they're decorating. It's fun.
That's a neat Christmas
Yeah.
tradition that
And,
you
and
do.
so I have pictures of Eleanor when she was, I think, 1.5 or probably going on 2. Yeah, because she's born in December.
Oh,
So
you'll have to show us pictures of
yeah,
that. I
her
remember
making
the first
cookies.
year that she made cookies with you.
Yep, yep. So, and of course, Strider does now as well. And so those are very good. And I actually use though the icing recipe from Martha Stewart. It was in a magazine years ago, probably the 90s. Um, and the one trick to getting icing to harden is put a small dab of corn syrup in it. I don't know what it is. I don't know why that works, but it makes it hard, which you kind of need it to really set so you can stack them and store them. So,
Right.
but the cookie that is my favorite because it reminds me of my mom. I have some picture here. Are thumbprint cookies. And these are a cookie that you roll in nuts, walnuts, and then you put raspberry jam in them.
Oh, that would be great with a cup of hot tea.
They are so
Mm.
good. My husband's like, "We have to try one, this morning." And I'm like, "Of course you do." But the interesting thing, though, is now if you find a newer recipe, they call for pecans, which these are actually Swedish cookie, and they don't grow that nut there. They grow walnuts. So I still make mine with walnuts. I make them the original way with walnuts, and I think they even have a little bit of it's a different nut has a better kind of flavor going on. So very simple to make. And I know a lot of recipes, the newer ones too, they say you should put the jam on it and bake it, but I don't. I bake them completely without the jam because you can't store them. They're all sticky if you want to stack them in a pan. So I put the jam in at the very last minute, but yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, they look delicious.
They are. They are. So, but and then we make gingerbread cookies just because I do like those spices. But I used to
Do
make.
you used to like the same kind of icing on the gingerbread
Mm-hmm,
cookies that you do on the other cookies?
yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is I know I'm not talking about my cookie yet, but in this cookbook, they have a frosting for gingerbread cookies, and it's 4 ounces of light cream cheese,
Mm-hmm.
and then 1/4 cup of plain non-fat yogurt, 1 tablespoon of honey, which would kind of take the place of that corn syrup kind of. And then it's got a half a teaspoon of lemon juice and a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And that is the frosting. When I saw that, I thought, man, that is pretty healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Cream cheese, yogurt, honey, lemon juice, and vanilla.
We don't like for the gingerbread man. I don't ice the whole thing. I just pipe the edges and put on some buttons and eyes.
Okay.
Now we do make gingerbread or the man cut out, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
of in the sugar cookie. And my daughter-in-law, Ivy, she is like an epic decorator. She like gives them sweaters. She just precisely does all this glitter. And I mean, I don't want to eat them. They're so pretty. I mean,
Linda, you have a lot of people that kind of drop over at your house. I don't really have that as much, but I saw an idea one time that when you make the gingerbread cookies or you make Christmas cookies, that you wrap them in the saran wrap and like in between the gingerbread cookies or the cookies that you're making, that you tie a little bow
mm-hmm.
and you make a garland to go over the door of your house. And when people come to visit, this was the idea. When people come to visit, that you have scissors there and you cut off a cookie already wrapped, has the bow on it, and you hand them and you're cutting the garland and you're giving gifts from the cookie garland or the gingerbread garland that you made. I thought that was a wonderful idea, especially
That's interesting.
or like a party, that before everybody leaves, the favor is that you cut off the gingerbread cookie and hand it to them.
Yeah.
So that's a neat idea. I've never done that, but I just thought it was a great idea.
It's fun. I really don't eat a lot of sugar. I don't have a sweet tooth. I'm more of a salty person. But I probably eat, I mean, we eat a lot of cookies in December. It's like I'm getting puffy over here, and then I'll just have to they'll be gone.
Yeah.
I give away what's left after Christmas or whatever. And yeah.
Outside, out of mind.
But we enjoy them. I mean, they're good. Like you said, otherwise I usually have just biscotti around here. But we enjoy them with our coffee. So it's a Christmas thing. Yeah. So what do you guys eat?
Well, I am not a big cookie person either. I love salty and crunchy. And
salty, crunchy, fizzy.
The biscotti is good to me too, and I love hot beverages. And but there has been a cookie that through the years has been one that I have kind of gone back to, and I kind of, if I'm gonna do a cookie, that's a cookie that I think, and it's a cookie that's great with hot tea and hot coffee, and they're called Emily's Yummy Oatmeals. And they come out of a set of cookbooks. This is Soup and Muffins, and it's by Sue Gregg.
I remember her.
Oh, I have loved it. Was a set of 5 or 6 cookbooks, and you've got a main index cookbook that you go in and you can look up any ingredient that you have in your kitchen. Say you have potatoes that are getting ready to go bad. You go to the main index, look up potatoes, and then it tells you, it cross-references. It tells you which book has potato recipes in it, or carrots, or peppers, or
that is so cool.
It is an amazing set of cookbooks, and you probably cannot buy them anymore, but you probably could find them on eBay. Or, but you could do a search for Sue Gregg cookbooks, and she was kind of ahead of her time too. I mean, she was putting out healthy recipes and things when people were thinking, what is that? They didn't even know what some of these ingredients were. And I just loved, so this recipe, for those of you that don't like a lot of flour, you can get 4 dozen or 5 dozen if you use the coconut with 1 cup of flour. These are amazing, amazing little.
So what's all in it?
So it's 1 stick of soft butter, 2/3 cup of honey. That's what you sweeten it with. You don't use refined white sugar. 1 egg, and then you use 1 cup of pastry flour. I would use 1 cup of sucanat because sucanat, I mean, not sucanat, spelt. Sucanat's a sweetener. Spelt. I grind spelt and make flour from my spelt, and it's a very soft, almost it falls into the line of pastry flour.
Now,
So
there's not
I
a
would use,
gluten in it, is there?
no, it's a more low gluten
Right.
grain.
Yeah.
But you use 1 cup of whole wheat pastry flour, and then it's a teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, there's salt, nutmeg. And then when you mix all that together, then you're adding in 2 cups of quick Quaker oats, and then you add in raisins, carob or chocolate chips, dates, chopped walnuts, and optional is the coconut. And you mix all of that together, and then you just scoop it
It's like
onto
a
the
granola bar type of.
They are so good. They are so good. And I'm not a really crazy date person, but the dates and raisins, when you get them in there, you don't really even know they're there. I mean, you taste them, but it's adding sweetness
Right.
to the cookie. And so they cook 10 to 12 minutes at 350 degrees. And I remember one year, Mary Catherine's not a real big cake person. And I remember one year I was asking her what kind of cake she wanted for her birthday. And she said, Mama, she said, I don't want a cake. Could you make those cookies and they be my birthday cake and we'll just put candles on the cookies? And I said, well, yeah, I can do that.
I don't really like cake either. Even when I was a little girl, my brothers, none of us had cake for our birthday. One had brownies. I don't remember what the other. And I always had a cherry tort, which is one of the things the aunties used to make.
We love pies. In fact, I remember one time we were at a wedding. Mary Catherine was probably about 12 years old. And we were sitting there eating wedding cake at the wedding. And she looked at me and she said, Mama, she said, do I have to have a wedding cake when I get married one day? And I said, well, no, you don't have to. She said, well, good, because I want pies. She said, I want pies. I said, okay. She said, in fact,
she had cobbler, didn't she?
She had pies.
Cobbler, they were so good. Maybe
she had apple pie and pecan pie.
Yeah.
Pie, and that was what she and Ben cut, was the peanut butter pie. And my cousin did cupcakes. She did cupcake treat, which was beautiful, and her cupcakes are delicious. And she gifted that to Mary Catherine, which was a wonderful gift and But so I told her, I said, no, you don't have to have a wedding cake. And she said, well, good. She said, because I think what we ought to do is everybody that comes to the wedding, tell them to bring their favorite pie, and we'll have a table to display them on. And we won't have to buy a wedding cake, and everybody will supply the pies. And I said, well, that does sound like a good idea, but I don't know that we'll do that. And so when she's about 12 years old. And she first met with a wedding planner because she was 25 when she got married. So about 13 years later, she got married, and she met with a wedding planner and somebody that had been recommended to us, and I let her meet with him by herself. Well, he called me because he said, I always like to follow up with a mom after I meet with the bride, because maybe the mom is going to have things that she wants that the daughter's not doing. And he said, I just wanted to update you. He said, she doesn't want any flowers. I said, oh, really? And he said, no. He said, who don't want flowers? And I know Mary Catherine, she's practical. And
where did she get that from?
I know, she got it from me. The whole time we were getting ready for her wedding, it was is that trash can money? We're not gonna spend a lot of money on that because that's all going in a trash can. Invitation, And so he said all she wants is these mason jars on the table at her reception with some baby's breath and little flowers. I said, well, that sounds like Mary Catherine. And he was wanting to sell the $500 big arrangements to go on the table and all that. He said, and she doesn't want a wedding cake. I said, She doesn't want a wedding cake. I said, what did she tell you she wanted? Pies. She wants pies? What bride don't want a
I went to
wedding
one where
cake?
they had cobbler. So yeah, not everybody likes cake. It's
And
okay.
so anyway, we have not been a cake person. We
No.
have not been we love pies and I like cheesecake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's really
pies.
only 4 cakes that I even can tolerate, and one is, of course, a chocolate cake because it's chocolate, but it's got to have a lot of chocolate, like gooey,
Yeah.
really good icing in it. Like you said, cheesecake, carrot. I do love a
I
carrot.
love carrot cake.
I think it's
I
a good
do like
cheesecake
carrot
that
cake.
we love.
But birthday cakes and
No,
wedding cakes and all that. Love.
and
I'm not crazy about it.
and then there's a cake. It's an orange marmalade cake from the Mitford series that I make, and it's epic. And we'll have to talk about that sometime. But anyway,
I've downloaded all of those into my Kindle and I'm starting to listen to those.
oh my
I
gosh. I just love that book series so much. It just makes me it's just the epitome of cozy. It's just the epitome of cozy.
I'm looking forward to going through that
Yeah,
series.
and the first book's actually not the best. She's, I think, just warming up, setting up her characters.
That's what I'm listening to right
But
now.
by the second book, you will be so hooked in it. And the funny thing about that crazy series is, so I never finished what I thought was the last book because I just didn't want it to end. I mean, do you ever do that? I just didn't want to. I didn't want to give up these
You
characters.
fall in love with the characters and that's part of your life.
I did. So I started reading it. I had a bookmark in it, put it away. Then it was packed away for almost 2 years while we remodeled the house. I brought them out and I noticed that I was missing the first book. And I was like, oh my gosh, where is the first book? Well, when I went, now this book was written like late 90s into the 2000s, the 2000s. So anyway, so as I'm looking for to replace the first one, I did actually find an autographed one, which was very exciting to me. I found out that she wrote 3 more books in the series. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I can read.
Have you read them?
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness, you need to read them.
I know I need to. I might have to do audio because I am not one of these gals. I don't know how they do it, but they knit and read at the same time.
I don't know how they do it
Guys,
either.
I don't know.
They
I
have
wish
to
I
be just
could.
doing something that's garter stitch or probably a garter stitch project that they can just knit every stitch,
And probably bigger needles,
bigger
but when you're
needles or
using
something like that.
But anyway, so I told Danny, he's like, we really need to read more. I said, but here's the rub. The only reason I even tolerate TV, to be real honest, most of the time is because that's when I knit.
Me too.
And so if I read at night instead of watch TV, that means when am I going to knit? So
you have to listen to it.
Yeah, we have to figure it out though, because I'm missing out. I know that. But I want to show you something. This is like really old. This is a nut grinder.
Oh my gracious.
It's a 1940s Hazel Atlas nut grinder. You can find them all the time.
What kind of nuts can you put in there?
All of them. And it grinds perfectly. Like it's a little, I wish the base was a little bigger because my hands get in the way, so I have to, but it's just, you can see, it's just got.
Where did you find that?
Oh, I've had it. I got it from my mom and where she.
Wow. Well, that's the reason to go into a thrift store.
They're only like $12. I looked up the year because I figured it was 30s or 40s. And they're all over eBay even for $12. So they're not even expensive. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, so anyway, well, good. I really want to eat that cookie over there.
Do you remember last year when we were watching?
Yes, I was going to say, I remember that book.
This book, everybody was talking about this book.
Yes.
And I've seen it and heard about it so much that I ordered this book last year. I've not cooked anything out of it, but there are a lot of cookie recipes. I mean, the pictures are just absolutely beautiful in here.
I think that's what she said, because I think she showed.
Oh, look at that cake. Look at this cake.
Speaking of cake, I might eat that one.
Cakes. But this has got all kinds of stuff in it, cookies and
Ooh. So I think that same person wrote just a cookie book, and she got that as well. So that
okay. So this is,
but I don't need more cookies. I got all my old
but
recipes.
I just thought, and I'll alter the recipes to make them a little bit more healthy. But I thought that was a really neat little book. It's over 85 recipes for everyday baking and special treats. So, but there's a lot of cookies in there.
The problem with baking, and I love to bake, and I of course bake more in the fall and in the winter, is that I eat it.
I know.
And I just my body just doesn't it holds on to it all. Every cookie packs on those hips, so and it's like, and I am a seafood eater. I don't usually crave it, so but if I have it in the house I have to eat it, so the biscotti I somehow can control myself over and just have it in the morning. But I don't know if I had cookies around all the time or dessert, I'd eat it. Yeah. I can't do it. But that's me. I'm weak, I guess. But so before we go, let's talk about some of the comments. And we're so excited that you're leaving us some comments because it makes it feel like you're really part of our knitting circle. And that's really why we do this. That's what makes it fun. If you guys weren't enjoying it, we wouldn't be doing this, right? But I wanted to explain something to it's Wild Knit Diva. She is a trooper. So there was a big boo last episode, and that was that we did the recording, and I usually start the recording just as soon as we sit down. We're not ready, but that's where we get all of our funny bloopers at the end because we're just us and we're just doing crazy things. So anyway, so I took that. Or so I thought. I took the raw footage and made a short to put on before the main episode came on, but didn't delete all the stuff on the back. So I kind of cropped anyway. And I accidentally uploaded the short plus all of the footage.
Our episode with everything.
And I said, I'm so glad we don't say
everything.
Bad things. Well, we don't anyway, but but it was still so embarrassing. But the funny thing is, so Susie calls me, and I was so tired. And there's another lesson learned. Linda cannot work when she's tired because anyway. And so she said, it's like an hour and 6 minutes long. Short is 2 minutes or less. And I'm like, no. So I quick jumped up and I deleted it. But Wild Knit Diva saw the whole thing, and you were a trooper to watch all that mess. And I really
was, and I knew that she had watched the whole thing because she talked when she went to Instagram and messaged to me because she couldn't message on
because it was gone.
Yeah, we deleted it. And she talked about getting those Christmas adding needles. And I told you, I said, she watched the whole thing because that was at the end that I talked about that.
Well, and I hope you saw the actual cleaned up version. But anyway, that's a trooper for you.
But thanks for watching, and I hope you love your added Christmas needles. They are really neat.
Yeah.
Wonderful to have it this time of the year.
Oh, yes. And then there's Teresa.
Yes. Teresa asked questions about the progesterone because we talked about that last episode. And you did go back and put links for her to connect into Dr. John Lee's books. That's where we learned all of our information was Dr. John Lee.
A good majority of it,
He is deceased now. He was alive. He's deceased, but he was alive when we first were learning all of this information. And but there is a website that a lot of his stuff, and I'll tell you, if you go to YouTube and look up Dr. John Lee and put in progesterone, the YouTube, they have him actually speaking of some of his lectures, and they are absolutely wonderful. You will love listening. Yeah, we had cassette tapes, but now they've been uploaded. They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
But
His
Linda
books are
did. You went back and put links for his books and
Well, I
everything.
just,
So
yeah, I
Teresa,
just
you
put
can
the
find
one,
that.
right. Then it'll show, other books for other stages of life. But
Well, and there's one what your doctor may not have told you about hormones.
and there's one about menopause and
Mhm.
premenopause and all that. So
Menopause.
you
Yeah.
good start. But I
Yeah,
think
there's a lot of good stuff there by him. You can.
the one we put in there, I think, is the best to get you going truly. So, and then I have to say thank you so much to Marcy at how do you say that? Omnicon Studio. This is so precious. So I was watching her channel when I was cooking. I think I was making stuffing for Thanksgiving, and then I paused it and stopped because I probably stopped cooking. And I have a TV here in my kitchen and dining area, really just a lot for music, So, but then I also listen to YouTube while I'm working. And I didn't get to the very end, and I picked it up again, and she shouted out a mention to us. She watches us, and it was just so sweet for her to mention it. And I'm just so glad that she's enjoying
I watched too, and I was already subscribed to her channel. I was, so when I went over there, I thought, oh my God, I hadn't listened to that episode. And so I listened so that I could hear her shout out. And so it was so neat. I think
It
that's
was.
the
It
time
was.
to know of,
It was a great
another
compliment.
YouTuber doing that.
It was a great compliment. And then I think she heard about us through Celtic Dreams, who also made a post, and she's a friend who lives in Western North Carolina. Asked us to remember them. And I honestly do every day, because I walk by that key that I have from the Lake Lure Inn sitting on my table, and I think about them every day. So, and saying prayers, and yeah. And then we have somebody from Nova Scotia watching us.
No, I'm so glad.
That's really far. We have to say hi to you.
In Nova Scotia. And she said that she is enjoying our channel, and we were just so thrilled to have you tune in and listen to us, and from so many miles away. So thank you so much, Heather, for listening.
I would love to see some of the things you knit, because you guys
yes,
good wool things.
Yes.
We have Joan, Sonia, Michelle, and I'm sure we're going to forget somebody, so do not be offended. But thank you all for watching, because this is what makes it all work.
And we do read every one of the comments, and they mean the world to us. Thank you for commenting.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's about it for today.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to be back next week.
Next Monday we'll record, so sometime next week there'll be another one.
Well,
we got to share our Advent.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I will be much farther ahead. I hope.
Trying to see how much further we've gotten in a week.
So sounds good. All right. Well, listen, if you have a favorite cookie recipe, please leave it in the comments, because I will go investigate and put it in my Pinterest. So anyway, all righty. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye-bye. Stay warm.
Yeah. I am so far behind on my Advent. I'm a disgrace to Advent knitting. I'm gonna make it. I'm not helping you. All right. Sorry. It don't matter. Okay. I got that. I got this. I got my speaker. I'm seeing a big booger on my screen. That's gonna drive me bonkers. Oh, I'm okay. It's been busy. I had to package up orders. I had to do all those Bibles, clean the litter box, clean up. I did 2 loads of laundry. Get ready.
Oh my gracious, that sounds so crazy. You saying you had to clean the litter box. You're a cat lady now. Cat lady.